So predominantly, if you want to categorize the products that the bank is offering, you can categorize, you can split it as fund-based one and non-fund-based one. Fund-based one is a product where bank will give you the fund in terms of INR or in terms of foreign currency. So non-fund-based is the one where bank will give a particular kind of guarantee either for working capital requirements or for term loan requirements. So in non-fund based, initially a guarantee is given by the bank, and over a period of time, this guarantee may get converted into fund-based product also. So when it comes to fund-based products, we'll have around 2 to 3 products. So the first and foremost is cash credit. So cash credit or overdraft. It is predominantly required by the borrower for their working capital requirements. So working capital requirements in the mean for their day-to-day operations, like it could be for raw material purchase, it could be for electricity payment, it could be for salary. So for your day-to-day operations, whatever the fund required by you, it is being given in the form of either in the form of cash credit or overdraft. So cash credit in the sense it will be more stringent in verifying the end use. So for a cash credit account, you will have to submit a stock and book debt statement. It depends on the period depends on each and every bank. Some bank may stipulate on monthly basis. Some banks might require you to submit the stock and book debt statements on quarterly basis. So every quarter you need to submit, and someone from bank will visit your premises and confirm that whether the stock that you have given is actually present in the unit or not. So that way, banks will have a stringent control over the end use of your funds. And overdraft is that it will be given as a running limit, but then you will not have any regular visits or by the bank or regular monitoring by the bank. But it is also given for working capital requirements. Uh, so how we will assess this part for a client? How banks will determine what extent of cash credit or overdraft is required by them. So there are two things. One is that up to 6 crores, RBI has allowed banks to go for Nayak committee method. Nayak committee method is nothing but whatever the turnover, whatever the sales that you are estimating for the current financial year, and 25% is your minimum working capital requirement. For example, if your targeted sales for this financial year is 1 crore, then your working capital requirement will be 25 lakhs. And out of this 25 lakhs, 5% will be your margin and 20 percentage will be borne by the bank. So for a 1 crore limit, 20 percentage, 20 lakhs will be the working capital limit suggested by bank. So RBI recommends this kind of assessment for loan amount up to 6 crores. And then another kind of assessment is Tandon Committee, which allows cash credit or overdraft to be fixed based on working capital cycle of the borrower. For example, working capital cycle in the sense, whenever someone is doing business, he will procure raw material. It could be on credit terms or it could be on advance payment terms. And on the other side, he has to convert the raw material into work in progress or stock or goods, and then he has to hold that particular inventory for some time being, and then he has to sell the product to his buyers. So once he sells the product to his buyers, it could be on terms of credit or it could be on terms of sales. So banks will analyze what is the average cycle in each of this space and what will be the extent of loan requirement by this client. So this is called Tandon Committee. But for this Tandon Committee assessment will be used mostly for corporates and mid corporates. For starting level employees or for the business with lower turnover, banks generally go for this turnover method, which is nothing but 20% of estimated turnover. So this is for your working capital requirements. And second kind of funding by bank is term loan. So term loan is nothing but you will be given a fixed quantum of loan at the very starting of disbursement, and client has to repay it over a month-on-month basis. So the difference between cash credit and term loan is that in cash credit, you can use it as day-to-day operations. Like take it as an example of your SB account. In SB account, you can credit some amount, you can debit. So the credit can be for any purpose, debit can be for any purpose. But in term loan, once the amount is debited, it cannot be used as running account. So it has to be predominantly paid on monthly basis. So this term loan is generally given by banks for three purposes. One is machinery purchase, and another is purchase of property or building construction, and the third one is for any other generic purpose. So most banks generally fund on the basis of first two parts. One is machinery purchase and property purchase. This generic purpose loan, because it is not, the banks will not have any verification of end use. Most of the banks, they don't give it, and some of the banks are providing you generic purpose loan. Generic purpose loan in the sense they will give you some quantum of loan and you can use it. End use will not be verified, but you have to repay it on monthly basis. So another difference between this cash credit and term loan is that cash credit is for your working capital requirements and term loan is for your longer requirements. For example, if you are going to purchase a machinery, you have to use the machinery at least for 5 or 6 years. So this is a long-term asset. So whatever long-term asset you are creating, that has to be created funded by term loan alone. So even if you are going to purchase a property, that property you are going to use at least for 10 to 15 years. So anything more than 1 year in bank's parlance is nothing but a long-term asset. So whatever long-term asset you are going to create, that has to be funded in the term. And another facility given by bank is export finance. So this is for exporters. Why there is a separate product for exporters means exporters are generally welcomed by banks and RBI also because they bring in foreign reserves into the India. So RBI has decided that if someone is bringing forex reserves into India, let them support by additional measures. This is why this particular product has been envisaged. So what is export finance? It is purely for exporters. This is categorized as two facilities. One is pre-shipment and another is post-shipment. So pre-shipment, what is the difference between pre-shipment and post-shipment? Uh, See, an exporter will receive an order from an overseas supplier, overseas buyer, for example, from Dubai. So, from receipt of that order to dispatch through sea or air way, he has to make way for funds. So that part of the fund, export finance is called as pre-shipment. Once the goods is made ready, that has to be shipped to foreign location, again either by sea or airway. So that part of the funding is called as post-shipment. Why this particular funding is required by bank is that it is cheap. For example, when a cash credit or overdraft account is used, right now the average rate of interest is somewhere around 10%. But this pre-shipment and post-shipment finance, you can use it either in foreign currency or also in INR. If you are going to use it in foreign currency, it will be linked with the LIBOR, London Interbank Operational Rate. And generally, the rate of interest for this pre-shipment and post-shipment will be around 4 to 5%. So you can understand the difference. This 5% is going to be of enormous benefit to the exporter. And one more thing is that if the pre-shipment and post-shipment facilities are availed in Indian rupee, our RBI gives some kind of interest concession to almost 30% of business sectors in India. So, which means your rate of interest is going to be further reduced. So, for export finance, this is impetus for them to do more kind of export and bring further forex reserves into India. So if you want any clarification, you can stop me at any point of time. Probably we can clarify it at the instant. And then another kind of fund-based product is bill discounting. So bill discounting in the sense, uh, you will be doing business based on LCR invoice orders also. So some banks will have discounting facilities for LC and some banks will have discounting facilities for non-LC also. This LC discounting will be availed by all banks because LC bill discounting will have the confirmation from another bank, so this is 100% secure. Non-LC discounting or supply bill discounting is something related with to the guarantee of supplier. So only some few banks give this product, and some other banks they don't give it. So it depends upon which bank you are requesting to. So, and if we move to non-fund based products, the first and foremost is letter of credit. Probably you might have known that it is a kind of guarantee that is given by a particular bank on behalf of their client. Suppose if I am doing business and I want to procure a raw material from Europe. So the client is there, he is supplying quality raw material and at affordable cost, or it can be Europe or China, anywhere. But you don't know the client, and the client is not ready to give it to you on credit terms basis. So what you will do, you will approach your bank, and the bank will, they might have assessed you on several other parameters. So based on which they would have set you a particular letter of credit limit. So based on that letter of credit limit, our bank will issue in favor of that supplier in Europe for procurement of raw material. Since this letter of credit has a guarantee of a particular bank, the buyer or the seller in Europe or China, they won't have any hesitation in selling you the product. So this letter of credit can be used for both for inland transaction as well as foreign transaction also. So this can be used for working capital purpose in the sense raw material purchase or any other expenses related to working capital, or it can be for machinery purchase also. If you want to buy a machinery from foreign, you can purchase it to letter of credit. So, and third point is that buyer's credit. Buyer's credit is also another facility linked with the letter of credit. So, what it exactly means is that buyer's credit at the end of repayment cycle. So, if it is this buyer's credit is linked with your working capital cycle. What is working capital cycle? Working capital cycle of a particular business is when the cash is converted as cash, which means you would have purchased the raw material, and the time frame between the purchase of raw material, conversion of raw material into goods, and selling of goods to another buyer, and remittance of sale proceeds from that buyer. This time frame is known as working capital cycle. So what buyer's credit facility offers to you is that till the end of your working capital facility, you need not pay anything to your overseas supplier. The bank will pay the overseas buyer, and at the end of your working capital cycle, you can repay the bank. So if you don't understand what is the benefit of this buyer's credit is that, suppose I will tell you an example of this particular product. You are going to procure one raw material from China. So China, he wants it from this China supplier from China. He wants to sell it to you on credit terms of 2 months. Okay. So, but your working capital cycle, which means your general working capital cycle from purchase of raw material to realization of sale proceeds, if it is 6 months, then for repaying your Chinese supplier at the end of 2 months, you need to make arrangements for funds from other way, other rotation basis. But if you had avoided buyer's credit, you need not pay anything at the end for 6 months. What you will just avoid buyer's credit facility. The bank that has given you buyer's credit will pay the overseas supplier, and at the end of the working capital cycle, by realizing the sales proceeds, you can repay the customer. So you don't need to block any kind of your working capital limit for availing raw material or machinery purchase. So this is a very good facility given by our bank. For sometimes it was stopped, and again last year RBI has given approval to go ahead with availing buyer's credit. So this is the benefit of letter of credit. And then bank guarantee is also kind of guarantee, which is given for executing any kind of work orders or contracts. So again, this is the same scenario with the letter of credit. Bank guarantee, because if you are going to execute any project with probably central government, state government, or some other unknown entity, they don't know you, and there'll be little hesitation in accepting your offer. So what the bank guarantees tells is that you have been assessed by a particular client, particular bank, and in the case of any contingency, the bank will give you a surety of so and so amount. So even if you don't perform up to their expectations, the bank will repay the amount. So it is very useful in securing any contracts or orders from other parties. So now we have gone through fund and non-fund based, and then we will have just to go through about what are the government schemes available for funding. So earlier, all these facilities, it is mostly given with backup of collateral security. So what government thought is that due to lack of collateral security or due to non-pro, I mean any client, any good business should not lack the opportunity of bank funding just because of the absence of collateral security. And government has given us some 2 to 3 schemes to give collateral free lending for eligible borrowers. We will just go through one by one. And first and foremost is CGTMSE. It is a credit guarantee trust for micro and small enterprises. So obviously, I have told you it is a collateral free lending. It is for micro and small enterprises only. So there is a priority sector classification, and it depends on micro. It is classified as micro, small, and medium. And this particular scheme is eligible for micro and small. So what in this scheme there will be a premium like our insurance premium. It has to be borne by the borrower, and it will be paid to this particular trust. So it is given to manufacturing, service, and also trading profile. So if it is a manufacturing or service, maximum loan amount is 200 lakhs. It can be for working capital purpose also. It can be for machinery purchase, term loan also. So either way, you can go up to maximum of 200 lakhs. And for retail trading in the sense, this trading profile, I mean, the end use of this particular business should be consumers, not any other business. You cannot fund a CGTMSE scheme for B2B profile. So B2C profile, you can fund up to 100 lakhs. So it can be for working capital also. It can be for machinery purchase term loan also. So basically, the trust based on the premium given by the borrower, it gives a particular guarantee. This guarantee can be from 50 to 85% of the loan amount. For example, if you are going to get 200 lakhs of loan, this particular trust will give you guarantee for 150 lakhs. So bank has to take a call for the remaining 50 lakhs, and that they will take based on the overall other parameters of the borrower. Products, you can give cash credit, term loan for machinery purchase. You cannot give OD in this product. You can give cash credit based on stock and goods verification. And then export finance. For exporters, this scheme can be used, but only in Indian rupee. In earlier we saw that export finance can be availed in foreign currency also, but when you are availing any scheme under government guarantee, you cannot avail foreign currency facility. So in this particular limit, you can avail export finance only under Indian rupee facility, and also LC and BG you can use it for inland purpose, not for foreign. Foreign LC and foreign BG cannot be given. And then Stand Up India. Stand Up India scheme is also a government scheme. So the end use of the scheme is mainly for working capital or machinery purchase. So what is the eligibility criteria for this scheme means if it is a single promoter's constitution, either they should belong to SC/ST category or a woman candidate. If it is a private limited or partnership, 51% of shareholding, there is majority of shareholding should belong to this particular category, either SC/ST or woman. And then it should be a greenfield enterprises, which means for existing companies, this scheme will not be allowed. It should be a newly set up firm and for new business. What is the maximum loan amount under the scheme is 10 to 100 lakhs. So again, another trust is guaranteeing this fund. So if you are going to start a new greenfield venture, backed by promoters of this particular category, you can avail this loan. And then there is another scheme called Mudra. Mudra, it is given for micro and small enterprises and also allied activities to agriculture. So this is again collateral free lending. There is no collateral taken for this scheme. So Mudra is again classified into three schemes: Shishu, Kishore, Tarun. So Shishu is for loan amount up to 50,000, and Kishore is for 50,000 to 5 lakhs. Tarun for 5 to 10 lakhs. So basically, you might have understood that CGTMSE covers more higher loan amount, followed by Stand Up India, and then Mudra. So based upon your requirement and categorization, you can choose any of the schemes to avail collateral free lending. So maximum loan amount in Mudra scheme is 10 lakhs. Minimum loan amount is there is no restriction. You can even avail 1,000 or 2,000 rupees. But based upon these three categories, this is mainly for budding entrepreneurs. Even government has told that their main priority will be to focus on Shishu and Kishore, which means the bottom base of pyramid. So, and again, recently, due to COVID, we have been given another new government scheme, which is Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme. So, this ECLGS scheme is offered purely to existing clients of banks and financial institutions. If you are a new client to bank, you cannot avail this facility. So, what is the eligibility? What is the eligibility in the sense? This is for micro and small and medium enterprises with outstanding loan of 50 crores as on 29 to 2020. You would be surprised at this date because this is the date. I mean, in March we have this COVID impact and we went into lockdown. So what government thought is that so whoever has been impacted by this COVID as on February, let them fund with this so and so on. And also another cap is that turnover of rupees 250 crores in financial year 1920. There is a slight deviation allowed in this particular for another 26 or 30 industries based on one particular committee recommendation, and they can, if their turnover is up to 500 crores, they can avail this ECLJ scheme. And one more thing is that as on 29 to 2020, none of these borrowers should be classified under SMA2. SMA2 in the sense banks they split customers based on their irregularity bucket. If the client's payment is due by 0 to 30, it is SMA 0. 30 to 60 is SMA 1, and any 60 to 90 he comes under SMA 2 bucket. So none of the client should be under SMA 2 bucket as on 29 to 2020. If they fall under this category, ECLJ scheme is not applicable for them. So what is the maximum loan amount? How the loan amount will be calculated is that earlier ECLGS has given that 20% of outstanding as on 29 to 2020. For example, if your loan outstanding is as on 29 to 2020 is somewhere around 1 crore, you can get a loan amount, maximum loan amount of 20 lakhs. But now we have been given recent guidelines that it is enhanced to 40% with the additional restrictions. This additional 20% can be given based on financials and other track record of the promoters. Okay, so we have gone through totally. We have gone through 4 schemes. I will just run it through again. First one is CGTMSE. It is for manufacturing and service and also for retail trading. Maximum loan amount is 200 lakhs for manufacturing and service, 100 lakhs for retail trading. So it is for micro and small enterprises. So what are the products offering here is the cash credit, term loan, export finance, and LC and DG. LC is letter of credit, DG is bank guarantee. And Stand Up India, it is also for working capital requirement and also for machinery purchase. So the criteria, main criteria is that the promoters has to be from either SC/ST category or a woman tech promoter. So it should be purely for greenfield enterprise. Maximum loan amount is 100, minimum is 10.01 lakhs. And Mudra is micro or small enterprises. It is categorized into 3 categories: Shishu for up to 50,000, Kishore for up to 5 lakhs, Tarun for up to 10 lakhs. And then ECLGS. ECLGS is for existing clients of the bank and they should not be under 60 to 90 overdue as on 29 to 2020. So maximum loan amount is 40% of what is the loan outstanding as on 29 to 2020. Hope clear with this schemes. So and my last slide is about from bank's perspective, when we meet a client, what will be our requirements for funding them? So one thing is that we will generally go by the track record of the client. So for this track record only, we will normally produce CIBIL reports, experience reports. So we will understand how his past experience in dealing with other banks, whether it is satisfactory. If satisfactory, okay. If not satisfactory, why there was a delay? Why the account had got into NPA? Was it deliberate? Was it intentional? That we will understand through track record. And then capital and net worth. So this is a primary verification by bank. So because this is your contribution in the business. For example, if you are going to do a 20 crore turnover, with a 12 lakhs or 10 lakhs minimum capital net worth means its general assumption is that the commitment will be low. So there should be, I mean, what banks expect is that for the outside borrowings, the capital should be on at least on the ratio of 3 or 4 is to 1, which means if we had borrowed 4 times from outside parties, then at least you should infuse 1 times of your capital in the system. And then experience of promoters. Generally, banks will give weightage if they have relevant experience in this line of business. And then collateral. So obviously, collateral will also find a place, because whatever happens, if the account goes bad, ultimately it is the collateral which will come in favor of collection. And then repayment capacity, whether a client has adequate repayment capacity to repay our borrowings. And then additionally, if you are going for new projects or a greenfield enterprises, it is always better to have a project report which will detail what exactly is the business, and also on the financial front, how your cash flows are expected to come in the next 2 to 3 years. So this will give the banker an exact idea of what is your requirement, what will be the promoter's contribution in the business, and what will be the cash flows expected from the business. So based on this availability of these parameters, banks will have a more free capacity in lending to them. So I hope I have completed my slide also. Probably if there is anything that you want, we can go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I think we covered almost all the instruments what we have been doing. So before we open the floor for any Q&A, just want to understand in this post-pandemic, what are the trends you're observing? What kind of projects are coming up? Or do you think is there any paradigm shift in the terms of business proposals that are coming up? Are there any emerging sectors that you see, or is there any change in the business models of the existing sectors?
Yes, exactly. Sorry, I mean, I wanted to cover it, but someone mistake. From bank's point of view, now pharma and healthcare has been given a preference. So, and also automobile sectors, they are also seeing a boom, because earlier there used to be a common mode of transport, but now people are giving priority to one mode of transport. So auto ancillaries, auto production, they are also being given an upliftment. And also food processing sector is also going on a positive trend. And the negative part, as expected, it is the hospital, hotel, tourism sector which is taking a hit. And there is one sector which banks are generally averse to fund at this point of time. And on positive front, I missed to add this textile segment. Textile segment refers to not normal garments, but for home textile, because there is a growing demand for home textile due to this COVID pandemic, and exports are really going sky high. So home textile market is also doing good as far as we are.
Okay. So I just want to make sure whether I heard it right or not. You said hospitals or hospitality?
Hospitality.
Okay. And sir, with respect, you were saying the food business or is going well. Any specific trends that we are hearing too much about organic and other things, or is there anything related to new medicinal what to say hybrid kind of products?
Even organic products are picking up, but in general, there is a demand for packaged foods because yes, as you rightly pointed out, people are becoming more health conscious. So there is a positive trend in organic food products.
Okay. So this is a question from Mr. Jilani. Any newly registered service sector who wants to provide online classes? Sorry, there is a one of the sectors which are highly affected is I think education and higher education sectors. Even there was a lot of investments what government was expecting in terms of private universities, even from establishing like bigger institutions across the world. They were trying to bring into India, and there are large projects like 1,500, more than like in this kind of scenario, it has become online. It's like anybody can get access to any part of the universities across the world. Do you see any opportunity for this kind of service?
Sorry, could you please repeat again? Sorry, I didn't hear properly.
Is there any opportunity for? It's a question from Mr. Jilani. Is there any opportunity for any newly registered service provider who provide online classes? Online classes.
Okay. So as far as India is concerned, yes, there is a scope of this kind of projects for higher education. But even though we expect a negative trend for school education till +2, but it is going to bounce back at least in one year or two. So anyhow, we are going to go back to brick and mortar model only. But yes, as far as higher education, college or other services concerned, yes, there is a positive trend seen, but it will be seen as how far this COVID progresses and how far the infrastructure is available in India. Yes, we have phones, but again, it is also bearing a negative point because again, students should be happy. There should be a infrastructure in place to avail that service. So, yes, we can wait and watch.
Oh. Any other questions from the participants? You can unmute yourself and go for the questions, please. There's a question from Mr. Hardik Patel, sir. He's MD of Home Street Paper Tech Private Limited. Sir, I said we have availed ECGLS for 20% during the last relief package. Can we go for additional funding of another 20%? Sir, there's a new RBI regulatory framework for COVID 2.0. I think we were discussing this morning, sir. With regard to that, is there any opportunity?
Yes, now banks can fund up to 40% of their outstanding. So earlier they would have availed only 20%, and they can approach their banks and get the 20% funded by them. But again, the earlier 20% was on pre-approved basis only. Mostly banks they didn't look into the repayment capacity. But now the balance 20% will be based on other parameters also, like their sales growth, like their profit shown. It could be based on the 20, but they can approach their bank and avail the 20%.
Okay.
Balance 20%.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Any other questions, participants? You can either directly ask the panelist or you can put it in the chat box so that I can read it out to the speaker, please.
So good evening. This is Hardik again. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Yes,
yes.
sir. I can hear you.
Yeah. Sir, I just wanted to understand that when you are appraising a company or you are doing the credit rating for a company, so you have listed out, I think, 6 parameters on which generally you do the rating or decide the credit rating of the customer. So, is there any particular weightage that you give for some points which is more and some points which is less, or how does it go, or you go by your gut feeling? How does it work generally?
Sir, it is a combination of all factors only because for a loan, I'm talking about funding side only, not from credit rating side. If it is a if it is a low volume of loan amount, then yes, we can compromise on most of the parameters. But once the loan amount goes up, it is for the capital and then also the experience of promoters and their track record, which obviously weighs higher, more than collateral. So if the loan amount is higher for mid corporates or corporates, obviously collateral will be on the lower side only. But again, more weightage will be given for their individual promoters and business modus operandi and also on the track record.
All right, sir. Thank you.
One more question from the same RBI regulatory framework. It was told that it is the moratorium that can be requested by clients is 2 years. Am I correct, sir?
In this ECLJ scheme, right?
Yes, the new scheme, which was released on May 5th, 2020.
Okay. Yeah, earlier in the ECLG's one version, it was structured like total tenor of the loan will be 48 months, out of which initial 12 months will be for moratorium. So principal, the loan has to be repaid in 36 months. Now in this ECLG's 2 version, a moratorium has been given for 2 years and that principal has to be paid in 4 years. So yes, you are correct. Moratorium, it is given for 24 months.
And it was, will this RBI guidelines would be sufficient for clients to approach or should we wait for individual banks to come out with their frameworks?
I think most of the banks will come with their framework.
Okay, and RBI gave time for around 30 days, correct, sir?
30 days, but again, they will definitely extend the time frame. But without waiting for that time frame extension, we can seek them immediately.
And they're still even you apply for this kind of restructuring, you are still eligible for additional funding also, correct?
No, if you are
eligible.
No, is this related to this COVID fund?
Yes, sir. Yes, it is related to COVID fund. Yes.
Yeah, COVID fund is entirely different. It is the funding made by the request of government. So government has allotted funds through a particular trust. So you can always avail the facility. Apart from this COVID fund, you can avail from bank side also based upon your financials and other parameters. There is no restriction.
Okay. Any other questions from other participants, learned past?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Sir, this is Balaprasad. Sir, I have a doubt whether this interest equalization benefits you told it now. That is for applicable for pre-shipment as well as post-shipment if it is availed in Indian rupees.
Sir, you were asking about interest equalization benefit, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, it is available, but it depends upon sector also. Almost the 30 sectors have been given go ahead by RBI. Where it should be seen as whether your business fits into that particular category also. And also there is a difference that there's a two types of scheme is available. One is for 3% and another is for 5%. So it should be seen as whether you fall in which category.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
if we are not, sir, would you like regarding trends, sir? If this you were saying organic and other sectors where which were you, if you can see recent times there are in terms of large sectors like steel and auto, because of maybe you were mentioning about auto or not. Yeah, there was some positive momentum and there with respect to steel, do you see any more opportunities for allied sectors, uh, not just large projects with allied sectors, steel, with reference to
Now,
auto?
right now there is overall infrastructure pushed by the government.
Okay.
At the government level. So I think because of which iron and steel, even in most of the banks, they have been pushed to positive sector. And for as far as allied activities is concerned, I'm not sure. I need to check with the.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you're any other questions, otherwise we can end this session. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. On a Saturday, you took time to join us. Hope to continue to empower entrepreneurs with right information on right times.